talking about it for like a day, but
do it too much.
okay, so slope-intercept form is option 2. I will add that these are all on a formula sheet. There's never been a time that students have taken a standardized test and these formulas weren't provided. Like you all walk around with the internet like at your fingertip that you could Google a formula. So these formulas will always be provided for you. You won't ever have to have them memorized, but usually right? It's the beloved formula today. So what did we say? Slope-intercept form, what does that general form look like? Y equals mx plus b. So let's start seeing here how much we remember and what we can find from the beloved formula. Okay, so we have 2 letters in here. There are 2 things that we can find. What are the 2 things that we can find? So what does M stand for?
Slope.
Slope. Okay, so one thing that we can find is slope, which is the M.
You can find the points.
And what point?
Like y-intercept.
Yeah, it's the y-intercept, right? So the other thing that we can find is the y-intercept, which is B. I mean, slope-intercept form did not take a whole lot of creativity to name. Right? We can find a slope, and we can find a y-intercept. Now, the easy thing about slope-intercept form is that we don't have to plug in 0. We don't need to do anything to find the important information. It's literally just the number sitting in front of x is our slope, and the number that is the constant is our y-intercept. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward in identifying the important information that we see. So if I say y equals 3x minus 2, what does m equal?
3.
3. What does b equal?
2.
Negative 2, right? Because that sign goes with it. Okay, so our slope is 3. Our y-intercept is negative 2. What if I say y equals 4x?
Slope's 4.
Okay, so our slope is 4. What's our y-intercept going to be?
0.
0. Right? Because that really says y equals 4x plus 0. How about y equals 7?
That's the b.
That's the b because it's not sitting next to the x. So what's our m?
0.
M equals 0. B equals 7. So if it has no slope, what is this line going to look like? Horizontal. Excellent. What is our slope and our y-intercept? What's wrong? Right? This is not currently in slope-intercept form. So if I want to find the slope and the y-intercept, I can't just look at this because it's not in the correct format. But not to worry, Zach is so kindly reminding us that we already know how to solve this and get this into slope-intercept form, and we can just solve this for y. So remember how I said solving for y is never going away, ever? So here we go again. So what are we going to do first to solve this for y? Subtract 6x. And also remember how I said it was really handy to put that negative 6x in front?
Yes.
Because our beloved formula is y equals mx plus b. So here's where that's super nifty and handy. So if we already started that habit early on, we're fine. It's not a huge ordeal if you're in the wrong order. Right, you just have to identify which one is your m and which one is your b correctly. What are we going to do next?
Divide by negative.
Divide by negative 2 where?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay, so what does m equal? 3. And what does b equal?
-5.
-5. I mean, this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You okay on that?
Yeah, can we go to lunch now?
No, we got a few more minutes until lunch. So we're also going to talk about the fact that we can graph this. That's not the graph. Okay, so I realize that we all sort of come from different backgrounds here. Some of us are so sick of slope-intercept form, it's like the only thing that we remember learning in middle school. And then others of us are like, oh, I only kind of worked with slope-intercept form. So just bear with me if you're like, oh my gosh, I've done so much slope-intercept form, you don't even have to talk about this, Mrs. McKinney. Just bear with me for a little bit here, okay? When we are graphing in slope-intercept form, so let's say we want to graph y equals 2/3 x minus 4. Okay, I think like with most things, right, our first objective is always sort of what's important. What do I need to know? What am I going to need to use? So if we're looking at slope-intercept form, I mean it is slope-intercept form. So what are our 2 important things? Okay, so we're going to find our slope. What's our slope? 2/3. And we're going to find our intercept, which is -4. Now this is the piece that I find students miss the most. It's a terrible habit to start because it is a terrible habit to break. What does B stand for? Y-intercept. So we need to make sure when we graph this B that we are graphing this on the y-axis. And our y-axis is our vertical axis. So the first thing that we are going to plot is that y-intercept, just like we did in standard form. So we're going to go on the y-axis to -4 and make a point. Because we should all really agree that when we're talking about an intercept, we are actually talking about the point, excuse me, 0, -4. Right? We don't write it that way because it's an understood statement. Then, once we graph that point, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to look at our slope. To graph in slope-intercept form, our slope has to be a fraction. So this one, it's fine because the slope is already a fraction. But if it's not a fraction, just put it over 1 and make it a fraction. Okay. And then we'll just act like, okay, I don't know the second point, but I'm being given directions to find it. So now we're still riding the elevator and going to our hotel room. It's just that we have the directions instead of the location. So from this point, we want to rise 2 and run 3. So from this point, I'm going to go up 2 over 3. Guys, it only takes 2 points to make a line. But it also only takes 2 points to make a mistake and to not catch it. So I want you to count this out at least twice to make sure that you didn't miscount. And it's going to be important later anyway. So go up 2 over 3 and then do up 2 over 3 again. And there's your line. And we're making a long line and we're extending it because what does that line represent? All the x and y values that make that equation true. So here's the deal.